great pain in my heart. Whether this is going on in our country, I have tried to reflect a lot. Until the next time, I reach to share with God that while I see a very big danger that is in front of us as a nation.
Tanzania's calm shattered. Captain John Charles Tesher, a serving officer in the Tanzania People's Defence Force, went live on social media and did the unthinkable. He challenged his own government. His 42-minute broadcast wasn't a rant, it was a calculated act of defiance. Speaking calmly, Tesher accused the ruling elite of looting national wealth, silencing dissent, and turning patriotism into a facade while ordinary citizens suffered. "Our country is being stolen," he warned, his voice steady, his eyes fixed on the camera. The impact was instant. Within minutes, his words spread across YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram, igniting a storm from Dar es Salaam to Dodoma. Tanzanian social media exploded as citizens shared and dissected his every word, while the state moved swiftly to contain the fallout. Military phones were seized. Officials labelled it a threat to national stability. For decades, Tanzania was seen as East Africa's disciplined, coup-free nation. But Tesher's broadcast tore through that illusion. It forced a question no one dared to ask aloud. When a system rots from within, who has the right to cleanse it? The people or the soldiers? By dawn, government censors rushed to erase Captain Tesher's broadcast, but it was too late. The truth had already escaped. His words spread from Dar es Salaam to Nairobi, Johannesburg, Accra, and the Tanzanian diaspora in London and Toronto. Online forums buzzed. Was this a coup or an awakening? The government's silence was deafening. The Defence Ministry issued a vague statement on discipline, while state TV replayed footage of President Samia Suluhu Hassan opening a road, pretending all was normal. But people whispered in markets, if an officer can say this, then the sickness must be real. Analysts called it Tanzania's turning point, a nation once proud of calm and discipline, now questioning both. Tesher wasn't calling for rebellion. He was warning of collapse. If the military keeps pretending not to see the rot, he said, the breakdown will come from within. That terrified the elite more than any bullet. Born in Arusha in the late 1980s and trained at the Manduli Military Academy, Tesher was known for precision and restraint. But corruption, favoritism, and buried scandals pushed him to the edge. When an inquiry into stolen military fuel was silenced, he declared, that was the day the uniform lost its soul. After the buried fuel scandal, Captain Tesher began keeping meticulous notes, records of missing funds, fake contracts, and the silent chain protecting the powerful. Those notes, insiders say, became the spine of his explosive speech. But Tesher wasn't just a whistleblower. He was strategic in Tanzania. Soldiers don't go live on social media. They disappear behind closed doors. Tesher knew that once his message went public, killing him would prove his point. His live stream became his armor. He never called for violence, only awakening. When a soldier guards the corrupt while the farmer starves, he said, he has already betrayed his flag. To many, it sounded like a sermon, not sedition. As Tanzania heads into one of its most contested elections, his message struck a nerve with citizens tired of censorship, corruption, and fear. Tesher's defiance gave voice to thousands, soldiers weary of hypocrisy, civilians weary of silence. Yet his act raised a dangerous question. When a man in uniform speaks truth to power, is he still a soldier or a revolutionary? To understand the tremor he caused, one must see the fortress he faced. Chama Cha Mapinduzi, CCM, a party once born of Nyerere's ideals, now accused of defending itself more than the people. For decades, Chama Cha Mapinduzi CCM claimed to embody the spirit of Uhuru, the freedom struggle that built Tanzania's identity. That legacy once shielded it from scrutiny. But over time, the revolution's heirs became its custodians, guarding history instead of shaping it. Under Jakaya Kikwete, the first cracks appeared. Politics fused with business, and the language of service was replaced by that of contracts, consultancies and offshore accounts. Scandals like Richmond, Tegeta Escrow and EPA ended in apologies, never justice. The party punished embarrassment, not corruption. Then came John Pombe Magufuli, 2015 to 2021, a rare spark of defiance. He cut waste, revived industries, and dismissed ministers live on air. Imperfect but genuine, he reminded Tanzanians what leadership could mean. His death, however, reopened the vault of continuity. Under Samia Suluhu Hassan, Tanzania returned to the donor comfort zone, stability for outsiders, stagnation for citizens. Inside CCM, reformers faded while old power networks regrouped. Policies of self-reliance softened in favour of foreign investors. Peace returned, but it felt hollow. For Captain Tesher and others, that calm was betrayal. The party had mastered survival by changing tone, not behaviour. And as public trust eroded, frustration began to drift toward the one institution that still carried moral weight: the army. Captain Tesher's outburst wasn't an attack from outside. It was a cry from within the state's own walls. That's Tanzania's paradox, a government obsessed with stability, yet its methods quietly breed rebellion. The tighter the grip, the deeper the cracks between those who rule and those who guard. The real question is no longer whether the CCM can maintain order, but whether that order still belongs to the people or only serves those in power. When legitimacy relies on control instead of consent, someone inside the system eventually stops obeying and starts speaking. Tesher was that voice. What he exposed was Tanzania's deep state, not conspiracy but continuity. Beneath the visible government lies an older, quieter structure. Retired generals, intelligence chiefs, businessmen and political fixers bound by loyalty, not ballots. They decide who leads the police, who wins contracts and which scandals disappear. Their influence endures beyond presidents and parties, shaping Tanzania's destiny from the shadows. For ordinary citizens, this network is invisible. For insiders, it's the real chain of command, a hidden republic that ensures stability even as democracy weakens. Tesher didn't just challenge authority, he pulled back the curtain on the power that never leaves, only adjusts its mask. The slogans of reform may change, but the guardians of privilege never lose power. That's why Captain Tesher's words were so dangerous. He didn't just criticize the ruling party, he exposed the hidden hand that sustains it. Human rights groups have long hinted at this machinery. The disappearances of journalists like Azori Gwanda, harassment of activists such as Maria Sarungi, and intimidation of opposition leaders are not random. They're strategic acts of control. This deep state doesn't rely on violence alone. It governs through bureaucracy, fatigue and fear, delaying investigations, transferring whistleblowers, and pressuring judges through budgets, not bullets. It's control masked as order. Tesher shattered that silence. By naming the fear, he weakened it. What makes his act so threatening is that it wasn't rebellion from below, it was awakening from within. Insiders say quiet purges have already begun in Tanzania's security units, not from strength, but panic. Yet Tesher's warning echoes far beyond Tanzania. Across Africa, liberation-era governments face the same crisis: stability without justice. From Burkina Faso to Niger, Mali and Guinea, citizens have turned to soldiers when politicians lose moral authority. Tesher's question now haunts the continent. When power loses legitimacy, who restores the republic, the people or the army? And whether the West accepts it or not, the crowds cheering in Ouagadougou, Bamako or Name weren't celebrating militarism. Captain Tesher's outburst revealed a truth long simmering beneath East Africa's calm: exhaustion with corruption disguised as stability. Tanzania, once a symbol of order, now stands at a moral crossroads. For years its leaders equated peace with obedience, but peace built on fear is only silence. Tesher's message was not a call for power, but a warning. When governments forget who they serve, soldiers begin to remember whom they serve. His defiance exposed a deeper crisis. Discipline without justice turns into dictatorship in uniform. Across Africa, the challenge is no longer to expose injustice, but to reform it before rebellion becomes the only language left. Tesher's act has opened a debate the continent desperately needs. Will nations keep asking for patience, while elites plunder under the mask of democracy, or demand a new model where reform replaces revolt? Because coups aren't born in barracks, they're born in palaces when politics becomes too corrupt to defend. For Tanzania, this is not a scandal, but a test of conscience. If the state chooses suppression, it proves Tesher right. But if it chooses reflection, it might redeem its legacy, showing that true loyalty is courage before injustice, not silence before authority. Share your thoughts in the comments. Can a government still claim legitimacy when its silence becomes more dangerous than its enemies? If you want to see more powerful stories like this, subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon to stay updated. At the Black Post, we uncover what others overlook, the untold stories of black civilization, history and legacy, backed by real evidence of a glorious past. Thanks for watching, and until next time, stay informed, stay proud, and stay tuned.